Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Warm Weather Fans. My name is Brian Stone, your host, joined again by Zeke Palermo. And Zeke, we're here to talk about all of the Week 10 games in the Sun Belt. A non-competitive week, I want to say, for a lot of these games. Like, the first half of Marshall Coastal was really fun. And then Marshall just got the oopsies and couldn't hold on to the ball. And then it got really kind of just spiraled out of control. I said this, we were talking about this before we went on to record. The closest game of the weekend was Louisiana, South Alabama, which if South Alabama doesn't score a touchdown in the fourth quarter is a 31-14 final. So even that should have been a 3-score game. But before we get into all that, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. It was a rough week for us, conference-wide. 19 turnovers across the 5 games. You're looking at a turnover almost every 15 minutes, just a hair over. So pretty much one turnover per quarter of game in the conference this week. So just really great stuff from us, especially when you've got a game on Tuesday and a game on Thursday where you're supposed to – is the strategic point of those games not to draw some attention to the conference, draw some eyes? And I guess if you look like 2 or 3 years ago when you struck this deal with ESPN where, it's this whole big football 365 deal, James Madison, Texas State could have maybe been an interesting game. I don't know when this was scheduled for the Tuesday, but at some point that might have been an interesting one. Same thing, Marshall Coastal, 2 or 3 years ago, could have been a really, really interesting game. And as you said, the Coastal Marshall game was interesting to watch and exciting, but not good football. It was not exciting to watch because of good football. So I'm really, really disappointed just by I was hoping to get a week off, man. And I'm sure you were too. With our teams off, State and Southern, it's like, all right, sweet. I can enjoy the games. Nope.
It was maybe the worst week of action I can remember in a long time. It's all conference games. It's not as if, early in the season, you're really rolling the dice on some of these teams because you're like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to get from a Liberty JMU game or, whatever. I don't know what I'm going to get from Virginia Tech Old Dominion. A lot of these games, I think we called straight off the bat. There was one upset that I at least was wrong about, and I'll get into that at the end because that was the last game of the night. But it was like Old Dominion UL Monroe was like I could have closed my eyes and picked the final score of that game. You could have written that on the card and handed it to the referee and been like, "All right, is UL Monroe going to fail to score? Yeah. Are we going to get out of here with a win for Old Dominion? Yeah. Okay. Cool. You talked about it. All right, so that's actually a good transition. So Tuesday night, last Tuesday, we had JMU Texas State. And I know what you said about wanting to kind of showcase the talent, I guess, around the Sun Belt. I think this was a good showcase for the college football playoff voters who get to pick the G5 representative.
Yeah.
Because let's look at James Madison's resume now. 7-1, 5-0 in the Sun Belt as of today. Only losses to a ranked Louisville team by, I think it was 14 on the road. So what's the argument for another G5 team as of today to represent in the playoff? I think they're the easy layup because there's no Boise State from last year where it's they're running a bad conference, but they're just far and away so much the better team. They've got a Heisman contender. We don't really have that anywhere else. And it feels like JMU is the cream of the crop almost.
I'll tell you where I think it's going to go. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Memphis, who's ranked and really notably for them over James Madison have a SEC win. They beat Arkansas 32-31 earlier in the year. Again, it's Arkansas, but there's a demonstrated trend that matters.
I know.
So
I get it.
I agree. I'm with you. I think James Madison has deserves as good a shot as any. I think if they finish out, they're probably going to end the year 11-1, right? Coastal's kind of feisty, but like they're not really going to do anything. So I think they've got a good shot, but I think today they're on the outside looking in.
And that's really a bummer that, like, I'm not necessarily saying we need to separate the group of 6, group of 5 or whatever from the rest of the country, the way that some people are like, give them their own playoff, let them play at the little kiddies table. It's like, no, we at least want one team to represent in the regular playoff, because you never know when you're going to get a Boise State beats Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl moment, and you're like, oh wow, like never would have seen this matchup happen if we're playing in our own little playoff. I understand what you're saying about Memphis. I'm sorry, man. That loss to UAB a couple weeks ago, a UAB team that fired Trent Dilfer before that week, that's a bad loss. UAB is not a good team. Like, I know that they have the inherent, like, carry the bias of the Arkansas 1-point win, who, by the way, Arkansas is not a good team. They've already fired Pittman. But UAB, dude, UAB has had so many rough seasons under this Dilfer regime, and I know he's gone now, but it's like, still, he started the season as the coach. If I'm, I make jokes all the time about the voters, like they're a bunch of crotchety old guys that are just sitting around watching games for like the first time in like week 11 and being like, who's good? Let me figure out who's good. I'm sorry, dude. Louisville beating JMU by 2 touchdowns on the road is way more of an impressive resume to me than losing to UAB on the road by 7 points in a game where, again, Dilfer's already been fired. So it's like, it's like you didn't accomplish really anything. Like, you've beaten South Florida, I guess, is your best win because they're the only ranked team on the schedule that they've beaten. But they're like a fine team for what they are. But they were getting a lot of benefit of the doubt from beating Boise earlier in the year. And it's like, they carry that preseason ranking bias with them so much, and I hate it because it shouldn't affect the way that you feel like later in the season. There was a tweet that I saw that kind of went viral because people were mocking it, where who is South Carolina playing this weekend? Was it Alabama? Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Alabama, and Alabama beat them. And someone was like, the highlight was tweeted out by an SEC heavy account and was like, Alabama knocks off preseason number 13 South Carolina, and people are like, we're still talking about the preseason rankings in week 10. Who cares? So I mean, I'm just like, all right. Anyway, sorry. That was just like a rant. Like, I'm tired of that carrying so much weight with like voters. I hate it. Personally, I don't think we should have preseason rankings at all. I think everybody should be on even playing field until like you actually take the field, because otherwise it would be like, yeah, Texas is still the best team in the world, didn't you know? Like, because they were number 1 or whatever. All right, James Madison beats Texas State 52-20. This game was only really competitive in the second quarter, when Texas State put up 20 points. You had a touchdown pass from Brad Jackson in the second quarter, 2 field goals by Tyler Robles, and then a Brad Jackson run, which cut it to 28-20 after the game opened 14-zip JMU. And then JMU just does what they do, which is they just kind of smother you in the second half. And, Brad Jackson threw 3 picks in this one, was also, we talk about how they're akin to an Arkansas State, maybe an Old Dominion with worse weapons, but Brad Jackson was the leading rusher in this game for Texas State with 43 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, JMU's a wagon. Barnett completed 12 of 18 for 4 touchdowns and 264 yards. I mean, this one was easy. I mean, it was competitive for like a quarter, and then it went back to being just a total blowout.
Yeah, I mean, this is really no notes, right? I mean, JMU is creme de la creme in Texas State, can win games, but doesn't. I mean, they just don't have the firepower on either side of the ball that James Madison do. Brad Jackson down to earth finally after a couple really good weeks.
He finally played a legit defense. I mean,
yeah.
No, but seriously, like, look at the teams he was playing. It was Arkansas State, it was Troy, it was Marshall, like those types of teams where you're like, oh, they're good, but they don't have a good defense, and there's not really any way for me to positively spin that outside of maybe looking at like a 1-game sample and going from there. Like, we know those teams don't have good defenses, and he doesn't have a good defense on his side. So it's like, yeah, he finally played a team that is far and away, head and shoulders, the best defense in the Sun Belt, and the predictable happened where they got rocked. I mean, there's no other way to really put it. Barnett continues to show that his ACL is like all the way healed. He had 98 yards and a touchdown on 10 carries. He was the leading rusher for James Madison. I mean, it was just 2 sacks. Tadeo, I think his name is pronounced, the defensive lineman for JMU, with 2 sacks in this game of Jackson. It was just, they just totally ran through the Bobcats, and the Bobcats are now 3-5, 0-4 in Sun Belt play.
Ooh.
I went back through and this is a good kind of segue. We're going to do at the end of the season, like a preseason. We're going to circle back into our preseason predictions and talk about what we got wrong, what we got right, and where we were kind of in the middle. Texas State, I don't think we could have been any more dead on by being like totally skeptical of whatever this team was supposed to look like. I actually went through the other day and was trolling in the YouTube comments of our preview from months ago, where people were like, you guys are just haters that we're going on to the big bad Pac-12. We're going to be way better than you think. And I just wrote the numbers out. I was like, you guys are allowing 418 yards per game. You're 117th in the country. You're allowing 33.1 points per game, or whatever the number was before this one. I'm like, where does the confidence come from? Like, how did you watch this team play last season and go, we're going to be worse on offense by a lot? It'll all work out. It'll all be fine. That was the part I didn't understand.
Yeah, man, go beat up on, like, I don't know, San Diego State next year and come talk.
State's pretty good, actually.
Big
go beat
bad
up on San Jose State or whatever.
You know, when Gonzaga inevitably fields a football team, like, rock on, man.
Yeah, you guys are gonna crush John Stockton's alma mater. But yeah, otherwise, it's been a really, really bad season for Texas State. I mean, it's been, to put it in perspective, I bet the under before the season, and they had to get to 8 regular season wins. It cashed on Friday.
Nice.
It cashed before November 1st. Think about that.
Yep.
So, yeah, good luck in the Pac-12. I'm sure things will get a lot easier for you guys once you're playing bigger and better competition. You can't stick with us little guys, but it'll all work out in the end. All right, let's transition to Thursday. So we had, again, this was it was a very weird game, though. Like, okay, I know that the name of the game is that Carlos Del Rio Wilson had 4 turnovers by himself. I think he threw, I need to confirm this. He threw 2 interceptions. He lost 2 fumbles. Samari Collier, despite winning the game by 17 points, was by far the lowest graded passer in the conference this week.
I mean, he went 8 for 20 through the air. Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. And it's also insane to me that he led the game with, I think he had like, I'm trying to get to the box score. I think he had like 22 carries in this game or something. And they were like all really 22 carries for 75 yards. His longest rush was 12 yards. He's okay as a passer. But yeah, when your defense is forcing 4 turnovers, I mean, it's a lot, or 5 turnovers, I guess, as a team. It's a lot easier to win these games when you are like, why is our quarterback only completing 40% of his passes? It's all right. Defense will get us. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, these were bad turnovers too. A really bad underthrow that wasn't really to a receiver. An overthrow that was tipped and then got the jump ball. This was ruled a fumble. He throws on a screen to his right, throws it behind the running back, and Coastal picks that up. And then he was stripped in kind of like a scrum. Maybe he thought they were going to blow it dead, but I mean, he's still standing upright with 12 guys around him get stripped. It was really, really bad. Really, really bad.
And the game even opened with Samari Collier throwing one of the worst pick sixes I've seen in a long time, where it was like, clearly the read was to his left, and he snapped it, and he just turns his shoulders and stares the receiver down until, I can't remember what he was running, like a curl or something, until he went into his break. I don't think Collier ever turned his head. Like, it was telegraphed all the way. And then Boogie Trotter jumped it. And, they put that stat up on the screen at one point. It was like, Marshall had like 78 points this season off of turnovers. And it's like, with this caliber of team, it makes sense why they're able to win, but their defense is so feast and famine where it's like, you see where you get now when you're not forcing those turnovers and getting pick sixes and all that stuff. You're allowing 44 points to a team that has a quarterback that can't complete half of his passes.
I don't know if I want to put this is not to absolve Marshall's defense of their flaws, but I don't want to put too much on them because 4 times in the same quarter, their team is turning the ball over and giving 30 yards. Have fun. Either best case scenario is a field goal here. So, I don't know. I think the 5-3 from Coastal is very, very deceiving. I guess now they're slated to finish second in the East, behind James Madison. Maybe there's some jostling late, but that's kind of looks how it's going to wrap up now. This is a very deceiving 5-3 Coastal team. They found someone in Samari Collier who is better than Tad Hudson, for sure, better than MJ Morris, but is still completing 40% of passes. If the guy didn't have the legs he does and the ability to carry the ball 22 times, the only guy on the team, by the way, with double-digit carries.
That was the craziest part to me. It was like, Dominic nicely led them in rushing with 76 yards, but he had 5 carries. And I'm like, what is the thought process there of being like, hey, we're up like double digits. Let's just keep pounding our quarterback who, if he gets hurt, I mean, our season is in tatters. We can't put Tad Hudson back there. Like,
they're a game away from bowl eligibility right now. If Samari Collier goes down, I don't think they make it that far.
No. Because
they only need one more win. Yeah. Dominic Nicely was a name you brought up, someone I don't think we've talked about yet, a true freshman. This was his 4th game this year, averaging at least 9 yards per carry. 2nd in a row over 10 yards a carry. He did 10 last week and 15 here against Marshall. Get this kid some touches. He's already passed the red shirt number, so it's like, what do you have to lose there? I'd like to see them involve him more moving forward, because Javin Simpkins just hasn't been good. That running back room is much like the rest of the roster offensively is pretty skin and bones. So I'd like to see them look to him more.
Like I said, I truly just don't understand it. Like, I understand that you're distributing the carries, but it's like 14, 18, 22. Okay, the rest of the Coastal roster, Dominic Nicely, Javin Simpkins, Javon Edwards, Jalen John, combined had as many carries as Collier did.
Do you have the PFF pulled up? Is that scrambled or designed?
I do not have them set up for like scramble and design. Like, I have the grades pulled up from this week.
Sure. Let me
But here's the thing: I put minimum 5 rushes as the baseline, and Nicely and Simpkins are on here. I didn't include non quarterbacks, so that's out, I guess. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I truly don't understand pounding the rock with your quarterback when you know if said quarterback ever goes down. Like, again, the season is basically you can go ahead and pack the equipment up for the year. Like, you're probably not winning another game. This is interesting too. You talked about it about them finishing second.
Mm-hmm.
They probably will beat Georgia State on November 8th. They'll probably win at Georgia Southern the week after that. They play at South Carolina, which is probably a loss, I would say. I mean, like, I don't feel very confident in South Carolina this year. They've been really bad, even with a guy that draft pundits like in Sellers. And then they play James Madison in the finale. So James Madison's really going to put a beating on them in the finale, I think. But I'm sorry, if you're running your quarterback 22 times in a game where you won by 3 scores, like, he's not going to make it the rest of the season. Like, you shouldn't be giving him Jerome Bettis between the tackle touches.
Those are all design runs. He has 2 scrambles in that game per PFF. So, there's a small margin of error, but it's at most like plus minus 1. And that's been the case for him all year. That's really interesting. And Tim Beck, your job kind of rides on whether or not this guy gets hurt. So happy trails, I suppose.
We did this with Troy last week. Let me take you through the wins in the conference for Coastal this year. You tell me which is the best of these teams. 18-point win over South Alabama. Well, you had a 40-point loss to Old Dominion. That was pre-Collier.
Yeah.
You beat UL Monroe by 15. You beat App by 8. And you beat Marshall by 17. Is Marshall the best team of that group?
Yeah, I'm definitely most impressed by Marshall of those 4. We know South Alabama is in contention for worst in the conference. ULM, we know if they get behind, just don't know how to play football on either side, offense or defensively. And App is like a middle of the road team this year, that definitely better than I was anticipating, but still
extremely inconsistent. And there's no rhyme or reason to, like, early in the season, it was like Rashad Dubinion was like carrying the team. And I don't know if he's been like injured or whatnot, but he has not been good like the last couple games, and he's been playing. So that's why I don't know if he's injured or not. It's not like he's just been totally erased from the stat sheet. The last couple weeks have been like 10 carries, 38 yards. And you're like, what happened to this guy? Like, I don't know. Yeah. All right. I think we've said enough about this game. Marshall, another extremely inconsistent team. It's like they ran into the exact problem that a lot of teams that play them run into, which is if you turn the ball over, they're going to make you pay.
Yep.
But they were the ones on the other side of it on Thursday, and they were like, oh no, like, what do we do now? Like, we're not getting stops with this defense, because it's either a pick 6 or it's going the other way for a touchdown. It's truly like there are no like easy defensive possessions, it feels like, for Marshall. But yeah, Coastal, good win for them. They keep rolling. All right, Saturday. This one was the most obvious result of all time. Old Dominion beats UL Monroe 31-6. It was 24-0 at half. I saw that they didn't actually put Quinn Hinnacl in until I think like 4 minutes left to go in the game, and I was like, why was Colton Joseph still playing? You know.
We talked about this last week.
UL Monroe's not going to score 24 points. Take him out. So I was just like, I was kind of shocked that he was still getting reps with like 8 minutes left to go in the game, and I was like, what are we doing here, Old Dominion?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, there's not a ton on this game. I think this just further exacerbates the problems that we get. How do you throw in a game that you were shut out for until the fourth quarter? a garbage time touchdown with 5 minutes left in the game. You throw the ball only 21 times. This is UL Monroe. It's because you've got Aiden Armenta and then at best Landon Graves behind it. And this, nothing can progress next season until they identify a guy. Because like Zach Palmer-Smith ran the ball 18 times for 96, averaged over 5 yards a carry. I think this is his third game in a row, maybe with over 5 per carry. Mm-hmm. He's been doing really well. There's some pieces on the defense. ULM 3 sacks in this game, 6 tackles for loss. I believe he pickled Dominion off. But when you get behind, shucks, man.
The game's over.
Aiden Armenta can't do it. And so no. I hope they have identified a guy already, be it in the recruiting class or in the portal, that they really like, because this could be a really, really quick coaching tenure here if they don't identify anyone.
I mean, I said it weeks ago, and I still maintain, like, I don't know what Bryant Vincent saw out of Aiden Armenta last season that was like, I want to bring this guy back as basically the incumbent starter next year.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was young. I never saw like flashes from him where I was like, oh, there's something here. You can work with this. He just doesn't. He's not exceptional in any area is the problem. There's nothing about him. He doesn't have great arm talent. His ball placement's not super great. He's not a great athlete. So he's not like Samari Collier, where it's like, if I can't complete a pass today, you're at least going to get some rushing production out of me. You don't get that. Saturday he had 13 carries. I know they didn't factor in the sack yardage, but 13 carries for -2 yards. His longest run was 9 yards. So you're not even really getting like rushing production out of him. Like what is it that Bryant Vincent was like? And maybe they just can't get anybody to come to ULM with the instability in the athletic department. Like Bryant Vincent's also the AD now, which he's not getting fired until they hire a new AD, because what is he going to do, fire himself? But it's just like, I mean, I'm serious. You were like, it might be a short coaching tenure. It's like, who's going to fire him? He's the AD too.
The governor.
Well, that governor's running wild. He only seems to care about what's going on at LSU. But yeah, who knows? You could just get like a letter from the governor's office one day that's like, you've been canned. Deal with it, buddy. I mean, Colton Joseph was good in this one. 12 of 22, 231 yards, added 72 yards on the ground, and ran for 3 touchdowns. It's just like ULM is seriously missing a piece where it's like, if you gave them even a functional baseline level quarterback, I think they would have like 5 wins right now. Like the fact that, again, like you said, and like we've said all along, the second you get down 10 points, the game's essentially over. You can go ahead and, fire the final gun at the end and be like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, you're working with a guy who, this is more of a baseball thing, but looking at WAR, it's like this guy's going to be a negative WAR below replacement level. You can find someone. I mean, but maybe not. I mean, because if now Southern Miss had these struggles, Coastal even might still be struggling with, because Samari Collier's good, but not great. Like, he's a good athlete, but really can't complete passes at a high enough clip. Are there maybe just not 130, however good enough quarterbacks to start in the FBS?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, and I don't have access to like their NIL stuff, but I think it's a combination of things. Number one, I think Vincent is a better coach than those guys you listed, like a Will Hall or a Tim Beck or whatnot. I think NIL is a big issue for them. Like when they go talk to a guy in the portal, or a recruit, they're probably like, what do you got NIL wise? And they're like, nothing. We've talked about with Matt back when he was on here, like how underfunded the entire athletic department is. I can't imagine their NIL situation is amazing. I think it's going to be hard because unlike a lot of other teams, you've seen an Old Dominion hold on to Colton Joseph. You've seen, Jalen Rayner stay at Arkansas State. I think unlike a lot of those teams, even if you get a guy in, he's going to be there one season, or hell, he might do the thing where he plays 4 games and then goes, I'm sitting the rest of the year and transferring at the end. Because they don't have the support system around him with the receivers. They can run the ball, but the lack of even throwing the ball down 31 points tells me that Vincent might jam a square peg into a round hole a little bit and go, okay, no, we're just going to keep establishing the run even though we're way down. And it's like, even if you got Cam Ward back there, if you're running the ball down 31 points, like what's he's got an audible at the line every time. Like
I guess the bright side is that you're not trying to force it, right? At the very worst, we know that Brian Vincent knows what he doesn't have. Or maybe he's just a poor play caller, or whoever is calling the plays there doesn't know that you need to pass when you're down 14 points in the first quarter.
No, I think he's just like, we can't do it. Like, I don't understand the I can't do it, so why even try? Like, I'm not saying you need to line up and run 5 wide sets, but you need to like even it up early in the game. Like, just give the other team a counter or something to like have to account for. Like, don't just we're a run and then we're gonna run and then we're gonna run and then we're gonna run and then I look at the scoreboard and we're down 21 because we've had 3 and outs and the other team has just gone down and scored on us and now we're screwed and we're just gonna keep running the ball. Yeah, I mean they've got to find something in the portal. Find a guy that, I mean, I hate to say this, but like this might be what it takes to get somebody to ULM. Find some guy that's been kicked out of another school for something.
Rashad
like
Dominion.
Well, yeah, but I mean like a quarterback that's been kicked out of school or something like that for non-violent reasons, let's say, and just that like violation of team rules guys or whatever that like just couldn't cut it elsewhere, and just bring them in and be like, listen, man, if you play here, you can do whatever you want, and you will start the whole season. We guarantee that because we got nothing behind you. Like we might put a jugs machine out there.
You ever seen Hey, if you want this to be your Blue Mountain State, come on down.
Absolutely. We might throw a jugs machine behind center. It might just be an improvement over what we had. All right. So Old Dominion wins that game big. That was, again, the easiest pick of all time. Next game here, Louisiana defeats South Alabama in a game that wasn't even as close as the 9-point margin indicated. I think we talked about this already. South Alabama scores a touchdown in the fourth quarter when they're down 31-14. That makes it look a little closer than it was. I know we've talked about Lunch Winfield's accuracy being in and out. He was dead on in this one. 14 of 15, 232, 2 picks was the high, or 2 touchdowns rather, was the highest graded passing quarterback in the Sun Belt this week. Had a grade out of 100 of 94.4 throwing the football. I mean, he was locked in. His yards per attempt was 14.5 yards. His ADOT was 15. So he wasn't just throwing it, he was throwing it down the field, and they were all getting completed. This just kind of outlines like South Alabama is as bad as everybody remembers. I gave them, I think, a little bit too much grace about the win over Georgia State. They are truly as bad as we thought before the Georgia State win, because defensively they've got nothing. Like they can't compete with every team that's not named Georgia State on defense.
Yeah. Is this team, if you were to airdrop Fluff Bothwell from Mississippi State back onto this team, how much does that resolve?
I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I think they can run the ball pretty effectively. That is not their issue. Now, if you asked me if you airdrop Mike Green from Marshall last year onto this team, yeah, that would be a discussion we need to have. Because if there's a guy with 18 sacks rushing the passer, then we can talk. But no, any of the offensive pieces, like even if you took Carter Bradley from years back and put him at quarterback, Gio Lopez put him back at quarterback, it's like he's going to have to out-duel somebody every week. like they don't play defense, and they're a little bit like ULM in that regard, where it's like their quarterback play is marginally better. It's not totally 12 out of 12 or 14 out of 14 bottom of the barrel in the Sun Belt, but they can't defend as even shown in the Georgia State win when they allowed 31 points to Georgia State. And then in this one, again, Winfield's chucking the ball down the field and they're all getting completed. So I don't know, dude. I've always had doubts about Applewhite as a head coach. I think he's a better coordinator than a head coach. And this is the second time he's been in this position. He did it at Houston as well after Tom Herman bounced. And he's just not he can't run a full team. He's a good OC, not a great OC, but a good one. And he just doesn't know what to do on the defensive side of the ball.
South Alabama, second fewest sacks in the conference this year, third worst rush defense, second best pass defense by yardage, but that's a consequence of being out of games.
The worst.
That's actually not good that you're in that position.
That's an effect of being one of the worst rushing defenses. Is like they're like, why would we throw? We would just run the ball every time.
Yeah, they have the second best rush or passing defense in the conference, despite or because of they've seen the fourth fewest pass attempts in the conference this year.
It's insane that teams get. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, the quarterback play is marginally better, but they're kind of dealing with the same thing as ULM is, where it's like teams are jumping on them and then just being like, all right, let's just run the clock
cruise
out.
Control.
Because I mean, outside of playing one of the other worst defenses, they're not going to score points.
Yeah.
So I think my question is, does Applewhite get the boot at the end of this season? Like, this is year 2 as a head coach. He was pretty good in year 1 with Gio Lopez. Not great, but pretty good, middle of the pack. And then this year has just been a disaster, basically, from Jump Street. So you lose Lopez, obviously. Davenport has not developed or even regressed from the end of last year from what the bits that we saw. I think if you're an offensive guy and you can't develop a quarterback, I think that's time for walking papers at that point. Because, like, if that's supposed to be your bread and butter, Applewhite also played quarterback at Texas. So it's not like, oh, I was a receiver, so I don't know how to develop quarterbacks. He was a quarterback. He backed up, I think, Chris Sims or somebody at Texas. So
can they tank a multi-million-dollar buyout?
Can they find something that he's done off the books and use it for cause?
He did it last time.
Yeah. Well, start checking his university issued cell phone and see what happens.
Yeah. If I'm the president, I'm calling all the sororities on campus and I'm saying, hey, do whatever Lane Kiffin is doing over there at Ole Miss. Invite him to your parties. Make him the guest of honor because we want this guy gone. 1.8 million per one Reddit post. So consider the veracity of that, but
brutal. I think you have to pay it. Like, either that or you risk doing this for the next 3 years, like that, or however many years he has remaining. I assume it was a 5-year deal.
It's 3 years left. Yeah.
If you want anybody to care about South Alabama football in the future, you gotta can this and hire an FCS coach and just pay him peanuts compared to what you were paying Applewhite. Yeah. Good win for Louisiana. Again, jumped on him 24-7 in the first half and then just basically didn't have to do anything the rest of the game. All right. Getting to the last game of the night, the most surprising result easily for me. Arkansas State beats Troy 23-10. Arkansas State scores 17 first quarter points. And then, much like Louisiana, just kind of, let's just salt the clock out. Tucker Kilcrease, once again, for the second week in a row, I thought he had kind of gotten onto a roll heading into
Yeah.
last week's game. And he didn't play well last week, but they won anyway. This week he was bad and they lost. And so now I'm like, are you just a guy that can show up occasionally, but there's no, you can't be relied upon, I think is where we're at with him. 19 of 34, completed 55% of his passes. His yards per attempt, he was also checked down Charlie in this one because he threw a pick, but his yards per attempt were 4.9 yards and his ADOT was 5.7. So not only are you not an efficient passer, you're not pushing the ball down the field either in a game where you were down 17 points after the first quarter. I don't know how you reconcile that.
I think what you're a big part of this Tucker Kilcrease conversation that you didn't mention is 9 sacks. 9.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
9
sacks to an Arkansas State defense that has been laughable in previous weeks. That's, I don't know again if that is on the quarterback. A lot of times when you have that many sacks, it is on the quarterback, but that's a combination quarterback offensive line issue. You cannot surrender 9 sacks to Arkansas State. You just can't. Like there's just no way around that.
Prior to this week, Troy has conceded the most sacks this year at 34. Next worst is Arkansas State at 22. So even if you chop off these 9, it's just a poor pass blocking situation there. Holy. Yep. And I'm trying to find the numbers here. This is an Arkansas State defense that was also bottom of the conference before this week in sacks. They jump up to joint 4th best with 22. Before this week, they were in the realm of bottom 4.
This is why statistics can be misleading, and this is why I don't want to keep bringing up the Texas State thing. But when we were doing our preview in the preseason, I don't think people listened to the episode beyond like a certain point because we called out. They were like, we only allowed X amount of points per game last year, in 2024. And we read off the games. It was like, right, because you were beating the crap out of bad teams and then you were getting housed by the good ones. So it looks better at the end of the season. It's like, oh, we only allowed 23.5 points per game or whatever the number was. And it's like, right. But then you allowed 49 to Georgia State and you allowed, 1 million points to Louisiana last year. It's like, yeah, because you were beating the really, really bad teams and you were getting smoked by everybody else. And that's why it looks even at the end of the season. Like the same thing happened here. We're going to go back next fall or summer and look and go, wow, Arkansas State, they had a lot of sacks last year. And it's going to be like, oh, wait, they had 9 sacks against Troy.
Troy, yeah.
Wow. Jalen Rayner continues to play extremely well despite not having a running game to back him up. 21 of 29, 247, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Kenyon Clay, their leading rusher, only contributed 40 yards. Rayner didn't need to do anything with his legs in this game. He had 10 carries for 5 yards. Again, they include the sack yardage, but his longest rush was 3 yards. So it wasn't like he was running and they just weren't counting him. Hunter Summers, 4 catches, 70 yards and a score. Jordan Lovett has sunk back into the sunken place from Get Out, I guess, with 2 carries for 6 yards after last week running for over 100 yards. We talked about how kind of good of a story it was, but man, this is just, Troy vacillates between being like extremely inefficient and a passable, like normal looking football team. And right. This also, this is not like the only reason, but this is also why Southern Miss, I'm like, they're just head and shoulders better than like Troy, because Troy will have these games and Southern Miss, like when they lose, you can see what should have happened and been like, all right, they just can't run the ball. Like that's their Achilles heel. So when someone stops the pass, they're out of answers. Whereas Troy, you're like, what's their strength on offense? Running the football, I guess, or throwing it with Kilcrease, depending on the week. Like he could throw 400 yards. He could complete, 19 passes for an average of 4 yards per completion. Like where are we at with him? So this is what I mean. It's just like there's a serious gap between like even Arkansas State. There's a gap between them and Southern Miss where it's like, Arkansas State doesn't play defense. Like this week was an anomaly.
This loss puts Southern Miss, or the win, or I don't know, Southern Miss didn't play this game, but this result put Southern Miss cleanly in the driver's seat in the West. Still has to play both Troy and Arkansas State this year. And a loss to either could make the final week kind of interesting, may come down to tiebreakers. Troy's loss to Arkansas State will obviously hurt them. Arkansas State's loss, not coming to Troy, but instead to ULM, could ultimately hurt them. Like even if they hand Southern Miss a loss, tiebreaker wise, they might still be screwed because their loss came to someone that might not be in the Mexican standoff. Yep. Although I guess I don't know. We'll find out how it plays out over the next 4 or 5 weeks. It can get tricky. But all of the sudden, Southern Miss, I was very vehement and I was wrong. I thought Southern Miss and Troy were both going to come into that final game undefeated in conference and treat that as a semifinal, but that's just simply not going to be the case. I think your point was right. It really just comes down to week-to-week consistency and a week-to-week identity. I wonder how much of that is having an established head coach in Charles Huff, a guy who has identities, versus Rob Parker, who's in just year 2 of his head coaching career. Look, man, I didn't expect Troy to be here at all.
Yeah.
So give them their flowers. My biggest defeat, of course, here is Butch Jones. Had to say it. Butch Jones, 4 wins in a row, has saved his job at Arkansas State. Splendid.
Well, okay, so you said that about having the established head coach in Charles Huff has helped Southern Miss. I honestly think having a Butch Jones, and I still agree with you. If Jalen Raynor's not on this team, like we're looking at a South Alabama level team. Mm-hmm. Like they're going to be able to score a couple points, but they're not going to score enough to stay in a lot of these games. I think him having been a head coach before and having coached at Arkansas State for years at this point, he brings some level of like equilibrium to that team that, like, again, Jared Parker doesn't at Troy because he's in year 2. You have to presume he's not playing the quarterback that he wanted to play at the beginning of the last 2 seasons because Goose Crowder has gotten hurt the last 2 years, this year and last. There's just the lack of week to week consistency of like I know it's Texas State, but Texas State has been in a shootout with this Arkansas State team. We're scoring 52 or whatever it is against Texas State 1 week, and then we don't get off the bus a couple weeks later against Arkansas State in a game at home against one of the worst defenses, and we allow 9 sacks to one of the worst defenses in the conference. Okay. And we don't know what we're getting out of our quarterback. We can't run the ball consistently. 1 week, Tay Meadows looks great, and then the next week he has 48 yards on 19 carries, and you're just like, huh? And then Jordan Lovett, same thing. 1 week he's got 100 yards rushing. The next week he's got 4 carries for 2 yards, and you're like, all right, I have no idea what I'm getting out of anybody on this team. So, and defensively, they're also not great. Which hurts a lot because you could kind of withstand some of these things if your defense was good, but they are I want to say like firmly like middle of the pack defense, but that's just simply not good enough to get it done in a Sun Belt conference that basically has one good defense to spare. So if you're not JMU's offense, like you're not getting away with a lot of these like underperformances because your defense just isn't good enough.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that all of the sudden maybe not all of the sudden, but it's very glaring this year more than previous years. There's no running games across the conference. The running back talent has really just evaporated overnight because, I mean,
Dried up, yeah.
Over the past like 2 or 3 years, granted, they're not stars right now, but this conference has sent 4 or 5 running backs to the NFL. Kamani Vidal, Rasheen Ali is doing something. Frank Gore is like hanging around on a practice squad. There are guys. And the defenses as well have just evaporated overnight when the best team in this conference a couple of years ago was Troy, who you could count on allowing less than 3 touchdowns a game.
I mean, they lost their head coach. Like they are closer. I said this like weeks ago and even last season, and I still maintain, like, no matter what their record is, this hire of Jared Parker, you knew when John Summerall came in, it was a slam dunk. This is closer to like a Chip Lindsey level hire where it's like, we haven't quite gotten there with the end result yet, which is, I think ultimately he's going to be let go after a certain point because frankly, you just can't have these like peaks and valleys every week. And you got to stop relying on Goose Crowder to stay healthy because it's not happening. But I think all things equal, you know, we read off their resume last week. This game showed why all those games were kind of not that impressive when you look at them under a microscope. You're like, don't look at the wins too hard, because if you do, then you're like, oh, is this team a little fraudulent? Yeah, probably. Like they're gonna slip up and lose a game they have no business losing, and then, you know, boom, you're down 17 in the first quarter at Arkansas State. So
we'll see, man. They might be shopping for someone.
We'll see. That pretty much wraps it up, Zeke. It was a underwhelming, very, very short slate of games. Let everybody know where they can find you on socials.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter at Zeke Palermo, ZekePalermo. I say it every week. If you're really interested in the high school sports of Northwest Georgia, I'm your guy.
Yeah. The Times New Roman newspaper. You can find the show on X at Warm Weather Fans. You can find us on YouTube. You know, like I said, X, like a lot of our platforms at Warm Weather Fans. You can find me on Twitter at Watch the Stone. You can email us warmweatherfans@gmail.com. We will be back later this week. We will preview the Thursday night game as well as all the week 11 games. This has been Warm Weather Fans.